I want to thank everyone for joining our June 29th Intermediate Planning webinar. Will a fungicide pay in 2016? My name is Dan Bahe. I'm a Precision Business Planning Specialist here at AgSolver. And to run through today's schedule for our webinar today, we'll have our introduction, identify possible fields where a fungus might be present based on a certain corn hybrid. Select zones and work scenarios representing standard assumptions and associated cost, where we'll be looking at a yield loss due to northern corn leaf blight with no application, and then comparing that to a yield protection program. Say we apply the fungicide via aerial application, see which one is going to make more sense from a financial standpoint. We're going to compare those scenarios based off of ROI, both on the zone level and on the entire field level of the scenario. Going to hop over. And so I do want to mention, as we're running through this, if you have any questions, please type your questions in the chat box below. We are in Q&A mode. So you can see my contact information, djbahe@agsolver.com, or you can email support@agsolver.com, and then also I have my cell phone listed at the bottom there also. So we'll hop into Profit Zone Manager. We'll go down to the Sanders field. Move the chat box. Move that down here. So what I've already done, I've created a 2016 corn projection planning scenario. We're on this field and we're using our inputs, and with an expected yield goal of 215 bushels an acre, and we can run through the crop budget that we have in place. And so this is our crop budget for our specific operation. And so my price at $3.84, national insurance average, it's a starting point for us, and so we like to use that. Equipment at $40, seed 128. We have our anhydrous, our down fertilizer, herbicide and insecticide cost, insurance, interest, grain drying, handling, and hauling, land cost, labor, overhead home personal, and then finally custom hire. Based off of that performance, we're looking at on this field roughly about $15,000 profit, have a return on investment of 31%. So what we're first going to do, we're going to plan out this hypothetical scenario. So say that the hybrid that we've planted on this field is prone to northern corn leaf blight. We've talked to our agronomist or our seed rep, and they're saying, hey, you're looking at anywhere from possibly a 10 to 20 bushel yield hit on your corn. So what we're first going to do, we're going to create a scenario based off of that 10 to 20% yield hit. So first thing we're going to do is copy a scenario. We're just making a carbon copy of this 2016 corn production planning scenario based off of the yields that we have in place along with the crop budget that we have in place for 2016. We'll name this 2016. Yield loss due to northern corn leaf blight. After we name our scenario, we're going to go ahead and click Save. So what we've done, we've created this scenario, made a carbon copy of it, and really just rename it. So the first thing that we're going to do, since we already have a whole field zone created, when we're readjusting yield, we're going to go to budget on the specific zone. Just checking if there's any questions yet. And so say we're going to drop yield, and for this we went from a soybean yield to a corn yield, so we're actually going to drop this instead of 384%, we're going to drop that to 338%, where we're going to be factoring in that yield loss. And then we're going to leave everything else the same for right now. And so theoretically what we're trying to do, we're trying to get that average yield down to 200. So we're just going to make a little adjustments to show that 15 bushel yield loss. So we'll drop that to 320. To explain our operation, we are in a corn-soybean rotation. We'll drop a little more. 318. So on this scenario, and this is an owned farm, so that's why our land cost is so low on this. So really we're going to want to focus in on this zone performance right here, where we're producing roughly right around 200 bushels per acre with an expected profit, and then we have our total profit of $11,219. That's with our yield loss projecting in 2016. Next scenario, we're going to copy this scenario and we're going to name this 2016 fungicide application. Without. Just leave it. 2016 fungicide application. So especially on this scenario, it's very consultative, and when I work with the farmer, we base it off of his numbers. So sometimes, say we already have been hit with northern cornleaf blight, so we're going to take yield from 215 down to 210 just to show some type of impact on that field that the fungus hit on the corn. So we'll go to zone, we're going to edit budget, and we're going to drop yield down to 210 or somewhere in that range. Drop it 338. We'll go 330, see where that puts us at. So it puts us at 206. All right, there we have 210. But what we're also going to do, so say application cost and also fungicide, say that cost is going to add us an additional $38 to our herbicide insecticide application. So right now we're already at dollars. Add on another 38, that puts us at $96 for protection on this field with a projected yield decrease of 5 bushel. We'll go ahead and save. We scroll down. Now we can see on this, when we adjusted our yield, added the additional expense due to the application costs. We've decreased a little bit, but what really helps tell the story is if we go up to compare scenarios. So right next to the field name, at the top right hand corner, we have an options drop down menu. Scroll down, click on compare scenarios. I'm working off of my home Wi-Fi. So we'll scroll down. On the left-hand side, we'll have our yield loss to northern cornleaf blight. And then our fungicide application on the left-hand side. So looking at this, if we take a 10 bushel yield loss, we're actually going to be better off to not apply a fungicide if we lose 15 bushels than if we only lose 5 bushels and we pull the trigger and apply the $38 application. But this is where Profit Zone Manager really brings in the perspective of the farmer, and to allow them to adjust the numbers based off of what they're comfortable with. So instead of losing 15 bushels, what if we lose 25 bushel? So we'll come in and re-edit our yield for this specific zone. I'm going to drop that to 300% and say we're going to expect yield of 190. Scroll down. There we're at 192. Come in and drop a couple more percent. $298. They're right about 191, and we're saving the $38 for keeping that in our pocket. So if we go back up to the drop down options right next to the field name and click on compare scenarios, we can show what a 25 bushel yield hit compares to a 5 bushel yield hit, but we pull the trigger and apply the fungicide application. And overall, this is really a non-variable field. Some of the major issues that we have going on within this field are water management issues. So on the left-hand side, we have our yield loss due to the fungicide application, where we still have relatively strong return on investment. But we're looking at 190 bushel. And then on the right here, we have our fungicide application with a little yield loss, 5%, but our profit is a lot stronger. Our production efficiency, and that is looking at bushels produced per $1,000 spent. We have our acreage opportunity ratio, only 10% of this field is operating against an expected negative return. And then finally, total field profitability. If we ran this scenario, we can do this we'll do it on the building site. So what we'll do, we'll base this information off of 2014 data. So we're going to copy scenario, go to our actual production 2014. And this is a field that on its best years gets right around 170 bushel. So we'll label this yield loss to northern corn leaf blight. Come in, enter in our crop budget for this particular field for 2016. Adjust the land cost. And then we'll create another scenario off of that yield loss. So on this, we're going to go ahead and add a zone. Select the whole field zone button. We're going to drop yield by 10%. By 5%, excuse me. Because we're going to count some type of yield hit since the fungus is already there. Application. Scroll down. Bump that up $96. Save. So then we'll scroll down to our yield loss due to northern cornleaf blight. Going to add a zone by clicking on the green add zone button. Our drawing tools populate on the upper left hand corner. We're going to select the whole field zone. Call this yield loss, no application. And for this, we're going to take a 15% yield loss. That's what we're seeing. We're projecting to have a substantial yield loss within this field. And we're not going to adjust our application costs. Go ahead and click Save. Next, we're going to scroll up to our drop-down options menu right beside our field name, buildings. This is a highly variable field. There's actually a sandy soil type that runs to the east of the field, about between 8 and 12 acres is where it's extremely hard to manage. And this is our no cost zone. So year in, year out, we know we're not going to make any money on that, but we still farm it anyways. If we look at our end rows and in the middle of the field here, these are our expense limited zones where we need to manage our expenses to make a profit. And then we have our revenue zones, which is on the west side of the field here and then south of the waterway. But on the left-hand side, we'll have our yield loss northern cornleaf blight, where we've reduced yield to negative 15%, or we drop it 30 bushels. Say we're looking at a pretty harsh hit. Compare that to our fungicide application, we only take a 5% yield hit, or between 9 and 10 bushel. And you can see the difference. Whereas from a profitability standpoint, we could withstand losing $176 or $177 an acre. Compare that to a 150, which is including the application cost. Return on investment could go from negative 24%. Now, since we applied that fungicide application, now we're only looking at 20% or 19% yield loss. Our production efficiency is 196 compared to 209. But overall, you can see if we didn't apply the fungicide application, we could withstand losing $5,600 compared to $4,700. So this is really dependent on the hybrid. I was working with a customer, I want to say out in northwest Iowa, and when we were working on his precision business plan, he rattled off some hybrid, and he said, this was my best and worst hybrid I planted in 2015. I said, how can that be? And he says, well, where I applied a fungicide, it yielded the highest, and where I didn't, it was the poorest performing out of any acre. And so what we were able to do, we were able to bring up two fields that were similar in location but had the same hybrid and compare those from a side-by-side comparison standpoint. It was pretty interesting. I want to open the floor up now for any questions anyone might have. I also want to mention that this webinar will be posted on YouTube after it is completed. And please feel free to email me or give me a call so we can work through, your scenarios on your fields. And every field is unique. And so, whereas the yield and financial performance on the buildings field is a lot different than on the Sanders fields, where we can typically look at a field average yield of 210, 215 compared to a field average yield of 160, 170. So, and then you can allocate your working capital where you can maximize return on investment and production efficiency, trying to produce the highest quality financial bushels within your enterprise. If there's no more questions, I want to thank everyone for joining our June 29th webinar showing will a fungicide pay in 2016. Thank you and have a good afternoon. Bye.